Chapter 8. If you prick me, do I not bleed? Fitz sat there and looked at the body of the man who had been Elvis. Alone. He was alive, but alone. Which should be a relief, but wasn't, because he didn't know what was going to happen next, and it might well be worse. He was in a tiny stone cell that wasn't very pleasant, but at least wasn't as full of corpses as the last one he'd been put in. Only one this time, and it wasn't rotting yet, which was something. And he couldn't see it very well, as the only light was coming through the door grill from the flickering torch on the other side, so he could try to pretend it wasn't there. A trepidatious feel around the floor brought to light a couple of robot rats and, fantastically, his old, well, new, but it seemed old now, coat in a heap in the corner. But there was no sign of the rest of his clothes. He put the coat on over his shorts anyway, after he'd wiped as much of Elvis's blood off his chest as he could. He wondered why they'd bothered to throw Elvis's body in with him too. Maybe they were just keeping it out of the way. Maybe this cell was like the cupboard under the stairs, where you stuck old rolls of wallpaper and broken chairs that you might fix one day, and buckets and spades waiting for the next summer holiday. Oh, and anyone you'd killed recently that you weren't quite sure what else to do with. Elvis hadn't wanted to die. Oh, he'd been a bit of a big-headed prat, but big-headed prats had feelings too, and they didn't deserve to be shot down just like that, even if they'd been trying to kill Fitz a few seconds beforehand. And what a way to go! Those were not cool last words. Mind you, they were not, in Fitz's opinion, cool words at all, but Elvis had presumably thought them amusing. Fitz wondered if he'd dreamed them up on the spot, or if he'd been spending half his time in the ring composing some dodgy lyrical parody. If so, not time well spent. Fitz tried to take his mind off his possible impending demise by thinking what his own last words should be to ensure adequate adulation after his death. Strangely, it didn't work. He scooted his bum to one side as the puddle of blood crept closer. Shouldn't it start to clot soon and stop doing that? Fitz shivered. The sight of other people's blood wasn't quite as disturbing as the sight of Fitz's own, but it still wasn't good. Thinking of that, Fitz did a quick top-to-toe survey of his own injuries, or rather, lack thereof. Not a scratch. He'd been very lucky. Or had he? He was still made of flesh, wasn't he? Therefore he could bleed, couldn't he? He thought back. With all the running around over rocky plains, and being attacked by strange monsters that went on in his everyday life with the doctor, he must have shed some blood at some point since he became bioconstruct Fitz. It was just that for the life of him, he couldn't think of any examples right now. Maybe he couldn't bleed. Maybe his future flesh was strong and impervious. Maybe he couldn't even die. He'd been worried for nothing. The fake Fitz body would just go on functioning whatever they threw at it. Not that he wanted to risk testing that out, but, well, a nice thought to carry around with him. Might just about make up for not being a real person anymore. The blood puddle spread a little further. Fitz crab-crawled away a bit more, and put his hand slap-bang right on Elvis's sword, still clenched in his death grip. He yelled in pain, snatching his hand away, and whipped out a handkerchief to staunch the bleeding. So much for that theory. Guess he could die too, then. Bummer. And while he was thinking these comforting thoughts, the triplets came in. Great. Fitz leapt to his feet, narrowly avoiding tripping over Elvis. He backed away as far as he could before the wall got in his way. Antarctica rushed forward. Fitz somehow managed to back away a few inches more. "Fitzfortune!" she cried. "You're hurt!" Fitz waved his hanky-bandaged hand in the air without taking his eyes off her. Just a scratch, he said. It's not like I've been, I don't know, shot dead or anything.
Good, said Asia, because you're going to take us to Earth. That is, if you want it to remain just a scratch.
Fitz boggled. I can't take you to Earth, he said. Surely Daddy can buy you a spaceship if you're that desperate. Hey, you could probably build one yourselves. You seem to have quite a way with the screwdriver. Asia shook her head.
That's not what we mean. We want you to take us to the real Earth.
To ancient Rome, added Africa.
To 20th century London,
sighed Antarctica. Well, I definitely can't do that, Fitz said. Asia held up the Walkman he'd been listening to in his dressing room earlier.
Oh, yes, you can. You travel in time and space in a machine called the TARDIS. It can go anywhere. It can take us to Earth.
Oh, great, said Fitz. So that, he indicated the Walkman, isn't actually a listening to music device. It's a read Fitz's mind device. Typical, just typical. But if you've read my mind, you'll know that I can't control the TARDIS.
Don't believe you, said Asia. We saw you arrive in your mind.
You obviously didn't look close enough. Yeah, all right, I travel in the TARDIS, but I can't pilot it. Only the Doctor can.
But we don't have the Doctor, Africa drawled. We have you. You have to do what we say.
Fitz hit his forehead in exasperation. I'm not saying I won't. I'm saying I can't. Which bit don't you understand?
Are you really telling the truth, Fitzfortune? Antarctica asked.
Yes, I am. I mean, apart from the inability to pilot a time machine, what other reason could I have for refusing to take you 3 lovely girls back to my home planet?
Said Antarctica. I could find out if he's telling the truth, breathed Africa.
I am telling the truth, yelled Fitz. Asia took Africa's arm, steering her away from Fitz.
There is another way to find out, she said. Go and fetch the machine.
Africa smiled and left the cell. The machine? Nothing good could possibly be called the machine. What machine? Fitz asked.
This is very important to us, said Asia. We have to find out if you're telling the truth. You lost a death match, you see. The only reason you're still alive is because we want you to take us to Earth. We have to find out if you can or not. If you're lying to us, we ought to kill you.
Hang on. If he was lying to them about not being able to take them to Earth, they were going to kill him. Not very logical. He pointed this out.
Said Asia. I see what you mean. Well then, if you're telling the truth, we'll kill you.
What?
Oh, Asia, cried Antarctica. Let's just find out the truth. We can decide whether or not we're going to kill Fitzfortune afterwards.
Asia looked indulgently at her sister.
All right, let's let the machine do its work.
The machine. Still didn't sound good. And this must be it. The door opened, and Africa pushed in a large contraption on wheels. It looked a bit like something that might be found by an intensive care bed. Lots of switches and dials and little coloured lights. Harlequin patterns flickered over the stone walls.
We call it our memory machine, Antarctica told Fitz. We can take deep memory and personality prints with it, not like the surface scans from the portable machine.
Africa was flicking switches, and the thing was humming into ominous life.
You just have to relax.
Africa was now plugging in small headphones, worryingly featuring metallic spikes that looked like they'd stick right in your ear holes. It may not work on me, he said, trying to be casual. There might be complications.
Oh, because of your being artificial, said Asia. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Fitz yelped. You know?
Yup. Sorry, is it supposed to be a secret?
I thought you'd said you'd only taken a surface scan thingy.
Yes, we did. And that knowledge was the closest to the surface of all. When we made a copy of you, you made a copy of me? It was all it could think of. Bit disappointing, really. You made a copy of me? Well, yes. Didn't want your friends finding the real you, now did we? I wanted to keep you,
put in Antarctica cheerfully.
Let's hope that the Doctor hasn't left in his TARDIS already with your double. That would be unfortunate.
Unfortunate, echoed Africa, coming over and running a finger down his cheek. Fitz instinctively shrugged her off, which was probably not the best way to treat a homicidal lunatic, however much shorter than him she was. She hissed and stepped back to the machine. Oops. Probably a terminal. Oops. The Doctor's cleverer than that, said Fitz. He'd spot it was a fake. He'll still be looking for me.
Like he did before?
Asked Asia. And Fitz's stomach did a flip-flop as he realised just how much they knew even without this deep memory thing. This copy, does it have my, how to phrase this, inhibitions? Antarctica giggled. Asia gave her a look.
Do you mean, will it tell the Doctor how he abandoned the real Fitz, then killed him, and then destroyed his own planet?
Well, that's what I was basically getting at. Yes.
Don't know, sorry. Anyway, put those on.
Asia was gesturing at the spiky headphones that Africa was holding out.
Take them, or we'll kill you now.
Fitz opened his mouth to start trying to reason with them again, but decided it was pointless. Logic didn't seem to mean much to them. Wordlessly, he took the headphones. Surprisingly, they didn't hurt. The metal bits filled up his ears and were a bit uncomfortable, but there was no pain. So they were probably not devised by Africa. They blocked most of the sound from outside, and when Asia flipped a switch, a low hum began, which drowned out the rest. He could see the Trips's mouths moving, but he couldn't tell what they were saying. More switches were flipped, and the hum grew louder. Unbidden, images crowded into Fitz's head. Things he'd been thinking of only recently, like his childhood trip to the zoo, and going off with Sam and the Doctor and Gallifrey and all that stuff. Things he'd done lately, like waiting in London for the Doctor and all that stuff in Belgium with Anji and Dave. The triplets seemed to be getting a bit agitated, mouths opening and closing swiftly, but he was so caught up in his past that he didn't care what was happening out there. Back a bit, to compassion, and then a brief trip through all the girls he had loved and lost, or abandoned. Philippa, Maddie, Kirsten, Ariel. Christ, there had been a few. Anyone would think he had commitment issues. And before that, to his early travels with the Doctor and, yes, what he knew about the TARDIS and how to use it, but how it was only the Doctor that knew how to use it really, and now probably even he didn't. And then he had to go through his mum dying again. And then he was looking after her when she was ill, and the first time something good to relive at last. And his first girlfriend, and looking after his mum after his dad died, and then the kids at school were celebrating the death of a stinking old kraut, and then his dad died, and then his dad was ill, and then Fitz was a kid, and didn't understand the things that were being shouted at him in the street, faster and faster, spending entire days as Dick Barton, special agent, Mum and him being spat on in an air raid shelter when they found out their surname. His 5th birthday party, where there were spam sandwiches, and his mum wasn't going to let that nasty Hitler spoil little Fitz's day. Buckets and spades and the incredible smell of salty air. Riding on a bus, being carried everywhere. Mummy, Daddy, food, sleep. Mummy, Daddy, food, sleep. Cry, Mummy, cry, warm and cosy, and didn't want to move ever, and ah! Fitz yelled as Asia took the headphones off him. I was being born! Oh my God, I was being born! Asia was frowning.
He's overloaded the machine.
Oh no! Poor machine! Gasped Fitz. But they were ignoring him. Look at this! Asia said to her sisters, showing them something Fitz couldn't see.
They're all on the surface, said Africa. Sort of like bubbles, said Antarctica. Ew!
What? Said Fitz. Tell me what? Asia condescended to answer him.
You have to dig deep normally. There are barriers. Things you don't want to remember. Things that happened long ago. Things you didn't understand. Your barriers are gone, if they were ever there. When you were given your memories, you were given them all. Every single thing that had ever happened to you, to Fitz, brand spanking new in your head. They're just bubbling up to the surface.
Well, I hope you haven't burst any, said Fitz, freaked out again.
Might have. Sorry? What? Probably not, though. The copied stuff's probably all right. It's the new stuff that's a bit unstable. Your old memories aren't fading into the background like they should, so there's not really that much room for anything else. Ooh! What? One of your memories just popped out of existence all by itself. Cool! I've never seen that happen before.
Fitz was not calm. Oh, I'm so glad my brain is entertaining you. Are you telling me my memories are just disappearing? This is my mind you're talking about, my life. Could you not be quite so casual about it? Asia just shrugged. Africa looked up from where she'd been examining the machine.
It's all right. He hasn't damaged it.
Oh, hurrah! Long live the machine! Everything's okay then. Antarctica frowned at him.
The machine's very important, Fitzfortune, she said, moving over to it and beginning to spin dials.
More important than my brain? No, as she opened her mouth, don't answer that, but at least you know I'm telling the truth now, right?
Yes, said Asia. So you're going to have to take us to the doctor and tell him to take us to Earth.
He won't listen to me.
I think he will.
Supposing I refuse, are you going to kill me? After the last few minutes, hours, days, Fitz was able to say that quite calmly, because really he didn't have any distress left.
Yes, said Africa. No, said Asia at the same time. Not necessarily, she continued, shaking her head at her sister. But we think you'll want to help us when you see what we can do for you in return.
Fitz looked inquiringly at her, hoping they weren't going to suggest something that might make him explore bits of his mind where he didn't want to go, because after all they were only 13.
We've read your mind, Fitz, she went on, and we can make people. Antarctica? All ready, said the third trip. Put these on, Fitzfortune. She held out the headphones again.
No way.
Please, said Asia, surprising him by sounding genuine. And these, said Antarctica, holding out a pair of large goggles.
Why? Fitz asked.
Just put them on.
Once again, Fitz capitulated. He didn't really feel he had much choice. But as he put the goggles on, "Whoa!" he cried, putting out his hands to steady himself as the floor seemed to rush out to meet him. He felt someone grab his arm.
It's okay, Fitzfortune, he heard dimly on the other side of the headphones. It's just virtual reality. This is what we could give you if you do as we say.
Anji, Zernick and Handstrom had reached the theatre. Anji glanced at one of the Fitzfortune posters, amused to see a velvet-suited Fitz apparently winking at her. But there were no signs of life. They went to the dressing room where the replicant had been. There was no sign of Fitz.
He could be anywhere by now, said Zernick, unenthusiastically. He'll be wherever the girls are, said Handstrom. We find them, we find your friend.
But we don't know where to look, wailed Zernick.
Anji was determined to remain calm. She certainly wasn't going to let this Handstrom see that she was worried. We use this as our starting point, she said. We'll explore the theatre, look for clues. They looked into the other dressing rooms, those marked Elvis. Nothing. Anji found a door into the main auditorium, but there was nothing there except scattered popcorn and ice cream wrappers. It was Zernick who found the door to the basement. It was behind a curtain backstage and had a "No Unauthorized Entry" notice on it. He called the others over. Anji, who would once have never dreamed of disobeying a sign, pushed the door open. And then she heard it. "There's someone moving down there," she hissed, letting the door swing shut again. "And is that not what we're looking for?" questioned Handstrom. Anji wanted to slap him. "I was only telling you," she huffed, "and now I'm going down there." "Would you like me to go first?" asked Zernick nervously. Anji, who desperately would have liked that, said, "No thank you," defiantly,
and opened the door again. She crept down the stairs, treading carefully to stop her heels clicking on the bare steps. Zernik and Handstrom followed. There was the noise again, a sort of shuffling. She hoped to goodness it wasn't rats. It was coming from behind a door that was obviously lockable, but that was standing ajar. So whatever was making the sounds wasn't a prisoner then. But what was that horrific smell? Holding her breath, Anji pushed the door open, shrieked, and jumped back into Zernik's arms. As she huddled there, embarrassed, Handstrom went past and into the room. "Oh dear," he said. "Not very pleasant, is it?" Anji composed herself and extricated herself from Zernik, who was just standing there bemused. With another deep breath, which she instantly regretted because of the smell, she followed Handstrom into the room. "There's nothing to worry about. They're all long dead," said Handstrom condescendingly. Anji took in the bones hanging from the walls, the rotting flesh on the floor, and shivered. "None of these could be Fitz, could they?" she asked. "Not unless he was already massively decomposing when you saw him yesterday," Handstrom said. Anji kicked herself. She knew that. "But what was making the noises?" Zernik said. Anji took a step backwards as the scuffling came again. Her eyes darted around the cell. It was coming from a pile of clothes in the corner. "Please, not rats!" Zernik nervously crept forward and whisked aside a purple velvet coat. Anji almost shrieked again when she saw what was under it, but decided to laugh instead. Curled up on a silver lame shirt was a tiny crocodile, a pink ribbon around its neck. "Ah," said Handstrom. "Princess Leia." "Pardon?" spluttered Anji. "Princess Leia. She belongs to Antarctica." "So we're probably close," said Zernik, "unless she's abandoned it." Handstrom shook his head. "No, she loves that thing." "It's ticking," said Anji. "Whoa, it's a crocodile," said Zernik. "It's got an alarm clock inside it. All Earth crocodiles have. Didn't you know that?" "No, I didn't," said Anji, giving him a look. She picked up the velvet coat that Zernik had dropped to one side. "The poster Fitz was wearing a jacket like this," she said. "Do you think it could be his?" "Possible," said Handstrom. "Well, are there such things as tracker crocodiles?" Anji asked. "Could we get, Princess Leia here to sniff Fitz's coat and hunt him out?" "It seems unlikely," said Handstrom with a sneer. "But it's worth a try," said Zernik encouragingly. "Or maybe she'll be able to find Antarctica, if she's her pet." "It is worth a try," agreed Anji, "so we'll try it." She scooped up the little ticking creature, taking care to point the teeth end away from her, although surprisingly it didn't seem to be aggressive at all. It seemed quite happy to be sitting in her arms. But once they'd left the room and were at the top of the stairs, the reptile began to squirm, trying to get down. Anji hurriedly dropped it onto the floor, and it began to scamper forward, inasmuch as its tiny legs could scamper. "I think it's working!" Anji cried. They followed the animal as it hurried through the backstage area, and went behind another curtain. They found themselves in a dark corridor, which the crocodile continued to run down. Handstrom was ridiculing the whole situation. "She's probably just seizing the chance for some exercise," he said. "We'll find ourselves in a swimming pool or something." Anji and Zernik ignored him. There was a door at the end of the corridor. Princess Leia obviously was keen to go through it, so Anji opened it. She found herself in a strange parody of a boxing arena. There was an actual ring in the centre, roped off, and seats round the outside. Princess Leia had trotted over to near the boxing ring and was examining the floor. Anji went over to see what she was sniffing at. "Blood!" she said. Zernik had climbed up to look inside the ring and called, "There's lots more here, a huge pool of it. Do you think it's Fitz's?" "No," said Anji. It wasn't going to be Fitz's. She wasn't going to lose anyone else, even someone she barely knew and didn't like that much.
Anyway, now we know what Princess Leia was tracking. She wasn't homing in on anyone after all, she just smelled the blood.
She didn't look at Handstrom as she said that. She didn't want to see the "I told you so" expression she was sure he'd be wearing. "It looks like the body's been dragged away," Handstrom said, adding, "whoever it was." There was a clear trail on the floor from the ring where Zernik was via the traces Princess Leia was smelling all the way out through a door on the other side of the room. "Then that's where we'll go," said Anji. She bent down and called to Princess Leia, but it seemed that having found the source of the smells, the little crocodile wasn't very keen on budging. So in the end they left her there and set off following the blood trail on their own. "I'm the president of this world," Hoover was saying to the doctor. "I can't just wander off on my own."
"Then bring some guards with you. Do whatever you like. Only don't try to stop me, because I am going to find Anji, because I believe she is out there with a murderer. And considering everything else she's been through in the last few days, I think she deserves to be rescued."
The doctor was striding through the palace corridors, ignoring the startled guards who jumped to attention as their ruler passed by. Hoover's voice was pleading, desperate. "I can't, just—" The doctor stopped suddenly, and Hoover almost walked into him. The doctor spun on his heel and stared the president in the eyes. The intensity of his gaze made Hoover take a step back. "You want me to make it all go away, don't you? You want me to tell you what to do, take away the responsibility, to solve everything, make it better. Well, I can't. If you want to make it up to the triplets for imprisoning them for over half their lives for a crime they didn't commit, then you're going to have to make that decision yourself. You can come with me now, and maybe save a few lives in the process, or you can sit on your golden throne and worry about whether it's the best course of action. Only decide now, because I am leaving." Hoover tried to draw himself up to the doctor's height. "I am the president, doctor, and you are an escaped criminal. I could stop you leaving with a snap of my fingers." "No," said the doctor. "You couldn't." Hoover looked at the doctor's face and involuntarily took another step backwards. In the end, they took 2 guards with them. Hoover was clearly disconcerted about leaving his palace with no ceremony, and the looks of astonishment on the faces of everyone they passed on their way out showed how infrequently he left at all. The 4 of them took a ground car, the doctor insisting on driving. "What a lovely machine!" he cried, delighted as they climbed in. "I bet she handles like a dream." He kept up a cheerful but one-sided conversation all the way to the main entrance. Occasionally, Hoover tried to ask him about Gregor Mendel, or this alleged murderer they were going to apprehend. The doctor just looked pityingly at him, and began to talk about the best method of growing roses, or his theories on possible ways to escape the gravitational pull of a black hole. The doctor parked the ground car with a screech of brakes, and swept into the reception area. Hoover and the guards had to almost jog to keep up. "Do you know where we're going?" Hoover panted. "Do you know how big this place is?" "I have a fair idea," said the doctor, whipping the guidebook from his pocket. "The question is how to get there quickly. They do have several hours head start on us after all. Come along, come along." He carried on through the control centre. "I do think it's ridiculous that you can't get a ground car into it anywhere." "It's not authentic, Doctor," Hoover complained. "What would they do if a visitor saw a ground car driving through ancient Rome?" "Oh, let's think," said the doctor. "What normally happens to visitors to this place? Do they get to go home with a packet of holiday snaps and lots of stories to tell the grandchildren? Or do they get killed by your granddaughters, I would imagine that seeing an anachronistic vehicle would be the least of anyone's worries." "But that wasn't anticipated in the building specifications," Hoover mumbled. "None of this was anticipated," he added, virtually to himself. "Well, never mind that now," said the doctor. "Perhaps we can hitch a lift on a dinosaur." Hoover looked alarmed. "It's all right," the doctor reassured him. "That was a joke. All the dinosaurs are out of action. But there was something else I spotted, not that far away from here. I think getting a ride is still a distinct possibility." Anji, Zernick and Handstrom had gone along several corridors, down a flight of stairs, and then through a huge wooden door into another corridor. Anji was guessing they were underground and had passed from one zone to another, because this was clearly mock medieval. The walls were made of stone, and the electric light had given way to flaming torches stuck in brackets. She kept a close eye out for rats. Suddenly, Zernick clutched at Anji's arm. She stopped and looked at him inquiringly. "I thought I heard a voice," he said. He pointed along the passage. "Down there." Anji listened hard. "I'm not sure," she said. "There might be something." They crept carefully along, all ears pricked. Fitz! Fitz was in a room with a red-headed girl, a remnant of a long-ago adventure. He'd loved her for a while, and she was the only woman that he'd ever loved for whom the while kept being extended. True love is where you haven't seen the other person for an eternity, but just know they're still feeling the same way. Possibly. Or was it just a case of absence makes the heart grow fonder? No, probably not. Fitz was an out-of-sight, out-of-mind guy, really. Except in this case. Her name was Philippa. Ha! He remembered her name. It must be love. "Hello, Fitz," she said. "You're not real," he replied. "As real as you," she said. "I'm not real either. I've just found out." "You mean I fell for a fake Fitz?" "'Fraid so, babe." "You must have a very low opinion of me, then, to think I would be taken in so easily." She gave him a pretend hurt look. Witty comeback or heartfelt denial. By the time he had considered it, it was too late for either. "I fell in love with you, Fitz. We weren't in a real situation, but you were real. You fell in love with a girl from her memories alone, and she with you. I was essence of Philippa, and you were essence of Fitz." "By Calvin Klein," said Fitz, unable to help himself. She carried on, brown eyes staring deep into his, and he wondered if she could see herself in them. "I couldn't have loved you if you weren't real, and you couldn't have loved me. You did love me, so you were real. Have we cleared that up?" "Yes, Philippa," said Fitz meekly. "Good. Now, you're meant to be deciding if you want to have a construct of me to join you. That bargain thing with the triplets, remember? Of course, this construct would look like me, have my personality as you remember it, though I notice already that my speech patterns have degenerated into a cross between my own and yours, and would also, to a certain extent, have my memories, what you know of them. But, and this is the crucial difference, it wouldn't have essence of Philippa." Began Fitz. "I ignored that the first time," said Philippa, "because it wasn't funny even then, okay?" "Yes," agreed Fitz. He really loved this woman. "So, two artificial constructs together. You don't think it would work, then?" She sighed. "Don't be silly. You know perfectly well it wouldn't. You'd be aware the whole time that I was out there somewhere else. And will you stop saying you're an artificial construct? You are no more so than Compassion was, and you treated her as a person. Well, in your own inimitable way you did anyway. To put it bluntly, you're bloody real, Fitz, and I've just shown you how much I mean it, because in your memories of me I never swear. Now just go and live your life, you idiot, and stop wallowing in self-pity because of something that happened in the past that you can't change. If it helps, wonder if anyone who feels that amount of self-pity could possibly be a fake Fitz. See?" "But will I ever see you again?" asked Fitz, torn between relief and trauma. "Well, I dunno, do I? I'm not a fortune-teller. I'm an aspect of your mind. Do you think you'll ever see me again?" Fitz considered this for a moment. "I think I probably will. I'd like to. But I'm not going to destroy what we had by building impossible dreams on it." "Good answer," said Philippa, smiling. She moved closer and kissed him. Much to Fitz's surprise, he felt it. "Now go on. Back to the doctor. Couldn't we just—" "No, go!" But she was grinning as she said it.
Fitz, are you okay?
cried Anji, bursting through the door. I am now, said Fitz.